And it's a collaboration between Institutes of Engineering, the IES Institutes for Energy Systems, the Institute of Molecular Plant Biology, and actually the Scottish Microelectronics Centre in Edinburgh. So I'm part of the Biological Form and Function Lab. And what I want to do is I want to talk about the dandelion. Now, I'm sending around little samples in a little soup container. So whether you like it or not, you probably have come across a dandelion. Either those yellow flowers that grow in your garden or the weeds between the cracks in the pavement that you see. For this talk, I'm going to be exclusively interested in this little person here. This is the fruit of the dandelion flower. So you've probably blown one of these and made a wish. So just some kind of terminology for what a dandelion is. It has a seed which has the payload. It's attached to a feathery parachute or pappus, which comprises about 100 filaments, and they're blown off something called a capitulum. So as the seed or the fruit falls from its parent plant, it falls at some settling velocity, and the fluid flow imparts a force in the normal and tangential directions along the filaments in the pappus. The traditional model is that we can just take all those forces on the filaments, add them all up. That gives us our drag force, balance it with the weight, and that gets you your settling velocity. And then you can then just port that to some sort of environmental model. What I want to argue is that it gives a good answer, but it's not right. So I'm going to go from the traditional filament-based model to a disk model. So here's a CT scan that we took. We gold-plated one of these dandelions in this soup thing that's going around, and we measured how many filaments there were. We measured the porosity of the pappus looking down on it. We measured the length of the filaments, the diameter, and so forth. So here are some numbers. If you work out the Reynolds number of a filament, it's much, much less than 1, of course, a quarter. The pappus-based, the parachute-based Reynolds number is a lot bigger than that. So based on the filament-based Reynolds number, we can do some, we can work out just using standard asymptotic approximations what the drag force in each filament is, add them all up, and you get this type of settling velocity. So you're actually getting a pretty good order of magnitude estimate when you use pre-existing formulas for the drag force. Right, so let me just kind of sum up that model. So the dandelion comprises slender filaments. They may be treated as independent slender bodies. The dominant length scale is the filament's diameter. So we have Stokes-flow, sum all the individual forces up, and you get a good answer. But I want to kind of query that. Yeah, you get a good answer, but can we really treat the filaments as independent bodies? And is the diameter of the filament the dominant length scale in the problem? And then the more important question, and what is the implications for this flight of these little fruits that I'm sending around the lecture hall? So the first thing I wanted to do was to say, let me drop loads of dandelions of different weights and see how the terminal velocity of the seed varies with its disk loading. And the disk loading is just the weight of the seed divided by the area of the parachute. So you get this fit here. This is what Stokes-flow would give you. Now that's actually not Stokes-flow. That's the best fit, assuming a linear dependence between the velocity and the weight. So Stokes-flow would actually be worse than that. But the disk loading, this would be, if it was just behaved like a solid disk, you get a square root dependence between the velocity and the weight. So just with this little simple experiment of dropping dandelion seeds of different weights, actually we artificially weighted them. We kind of got a kind of inkling that something doesn't smell right. So that got me thinking about a model of of these tiny little flies that have comb wings. So a paper was brought out where they looked at the Stokes-flow past an array of bodies. I'm going to kind of skip, well, maybe not go into too much detail. Essentially what I wanted to figure out was, how does the drag force on members of an array change from an individual member? Now this isn't my work. I just used the numbers for dandelion parachute, and what I computed was the forces in the normal, tangential, and binormal directions are all significantly less than what it is in an unbounded domain. So that got me thinking even more. Okay, well maybe the use of Stokes-flow is mutually incompatible with this problem because they're so close together, these filaments. So I'll just sum up that again. If we treat the dandelion's parachute as comprising n individual slender filaments, assume each filament contributes equal amount of drag, we find a good estimate of the settling velocity. Having said that, in these studies they don't really give the angle of attack of the filament. So there's I would kind of it's hard to really make an assessment of existing literature where they don't give those numbers. So then we solve the actual full Stokes problem of adjacent of neighboring filaments, and what we find is that there's, as expected in low Reynolds number flow, there's a strong interaction between the filaments. And what's happening is that the fluid that encounters this array, of course, is being pushed around, not through. So it's behaving more like a paddle than a rake. So we're going to re-examine the whole validity of that slender body model, and we're going to treat the pappus, that's the parachute, like a disk. So this is the new picture. Of course, it's not a solid disk. It's a permeable disk, and how much gets through obviously depends on the porosity or the permeability characterized by the Darcy number. So going from solid to porous, that's what I want to do in the next few slides. I'll explain what's going on here. It's probably a bit premature to put it there. Anyway, so if you look at this is some simulation of fluid flow past axisymmetric flow past a permeable disk. On the horizontal axis is the Darcy number, that's just the permeability, and on the vertical axis is the drag coefficient. The color here is just the velocity. I call it Reynolds number local. So if you increase the permeability, not much is happening with the flow, but then as you increase it a bit further, this vortex, this toroidal vortex, begins to move downstream, and you have this separation bubble. Eventually, that separation bubble just evaporates and disappears. So, okay. So the question is, what does it mean? What does the dandelion actually have? Does it behave like individual filaments? Does it behave like a porous disk? What we did was we built a vertical wind tunnel, and we put these samples that are being sent around, and we just threw them into the wind tunnel. And of course, the weight is being counteracted by the upward force, like one of those kind of facilities where you just kind of float around in a vertical wind tunnel. And we measured the flow using a laser and a camera around the dandelion. So these were flying up here. And what we found was that evidently above the dandelion there was this toroidal vortex separated some distance from the pappus. And if you just take maybe a long exposure photograph of that, you get this this toroidal vortex here. So why is this important? Well, the dandelion could have built a membrane for a parachute, but it didn't. It chose to use this feathery pappus. If it had built a membrane of the same dimensions to get the same drag, it would have, for the lower end of the Reynolds number that dandelion experiences, it would be periodic, but for the higher end, it'd be chaotic. So I decided to investigate this by building permeable disks. So with the help of the SMC, we built these tiny little disks the same size as the dandelion, and what we found was that the vortex shedding transition for a solid disk is about here and the Reynolds number. So this is the Struhel number. So this is DNS from a JFM paper just like 10 years ago. What we find is that this boundary between no vortex shedding and vortex shedding is pushed to a higher velocity, to a higher Reynolds number. Interestingly, it follows the same curve as the solid disk, but that's another story. So what we find is if you do this for a load of different dandelions of a load of different porosities, or a load of different porous disks, what you find is that the region between vortex shedding and no vortex shedding, now we only did it up to this point here, so we don't know what happens in this region here. But yeah, so the boundary takes this shape here. And the dandelion's parameter space is just right there on the boundary between vortex shedding and no vortex shedding. Again, I said that we're at the moment we're building even more porous disks just to explore this region here. But certainly up to this point, it seems to be just straddling the position between stable and unstable, or steady and unsteady. Of course, this is kind of well known in actual parachute design, a human parachute design, because it's one of the design parameters of parachutes. You make your parachute more porous to get a stable wake. But all previous models of the dandelion assume that each filament just acts independently. So, to summarize, can the filaments be treated as independent bodies? No, they act together. Is the filament's diameter the dominant length scale? I say no here, but obviously I should give the writer that it's a Stokes-flow effect that I'm suggesting that's causing this overall effect. But the dominant length scale in this problem, which gives rise to this vortex, is the Pappus diameter. So just to sum up the more important question, what are the implications for the flight of the dandelion? So as I said, the dandelion might have built a parachute that was a solid membrane. They can do that. Plants can do that, no problem. Why didn't it do it? Is it trading? Such a membrane will be unsteady. So the dandelion's flight is steady. So it's never at an angle like this. So it's not losing drag coefficient. And the dandelion's porosity is precisely that which separates steady and unsteady descent. So it's maximizing its drag, but not sacrificing too much in terms of stability. So, yeah, no more bumpy rides for the dandelion. With that, thank you very much, and I'll take questions.
Questions? I have one, actually. I mean, I don't understand why it matters, though, right? What is it trying to optimize the dandelion, especially, exactly? Why does it matter whether it's steady or unsteady?
Well, it's a good question. If it was unsteady, if the wake was falling like this, then the projected area that it's feeling. So first off, it's trying to stay in the air for as long as possible, so that a horizontal wind can carry it. The longer it stays up there, the better. So we reckon if it's unsteady, it's causing it to rotate. It's not projecting enough area, and it's just falling faster. That's the idea.
But presumably in an experiment, you could see that, right? Is it unsteady things fall faster? That's a known fact. I guess from parachutes. Yeah,
from parachutes. I mean, it's just where I guess we're using parachute design kind of the context to kind of answer this. Yeah.
It's a little hard to tell from your photographs, but they don't look to be distributed within a disk. That's what these heads. They look to be spread out.
Yeah.
And moreover, they also look as though they may be a little bit flexible.
In these conditions, the sort of forces don't bend them. But yeah, so yeah, to answer your first question, yes, they're not in a disk, but they're also no well-defined coning angle unless you wet them. If you wet them, they do close up just from a different principle, and they do form a measurable angle. But they come out at such the average of all those angles is basically zero. But they come. Looking at a dandelion from the side, they come out like this. So we just flatten them all into a disk.
I guess the relevant case for the discussion of the seeds is lateral wind. So you will have like the seed more like sideways.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why you want to have something like a sphere, more like a disc.
Yes, exactly. You do want that for sure to catch that side draft. But in terms of if I lived in a dandelion, I'd only be interested in whatever is trying to maximize whatever the prevailing wind is. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.